Starting stage 2, make sure your linishing machine is square, the exhaust is turned on, and the dust extraction is open. Turn on the linishing machine and sand both sides of the neck to make sure they're flat before we put them on the dock saw. Using a template, mark out on your neck the rough area that's going to be cut out. Make sure you mark both sides and the top. Next step is to use the bandsaw. Make sure the guard is lifted up to the appropriate height and we're ready to make our first cut. This is the first cut we'll be making. It's important to leave a small gap between where you're cutting and the line that you've marked out. Bandsaw may be on a slight angle, so even though it looks right on top, you might be cutting too close on the bottom. Let the blade do the cutting and make sure you're not pushing too hard. As you can see, I've left approximately 1 to 2 mm gap next to my line. Head over to the linishing machine and sand back to the line you've created with the template. Check both sides of your neck to see if everything's square. You should see the pencil line on both sides as well as have a reasonably straight line on the top of the neck. Time for some more marking out. You'll need a ruler, a set square and a pencil. You need to measure 215 mm away from the start of your first cut. Rule a line with your set square straight across the top and do the same thing on both sides. If you're having trouble with your set square, remember 3-1 thumb. It's important to have your line consistent all the way around the neck. Using the dock saw, cut 1 to 2 mm off the end of your neck to clean it up. Now measure where the middle of your neck is and put a small pencil mark. We need to use a depth gauge on the dock saw, so flip it over and you can change the depth by screwing either up or down. The depth we want to cut to is approximately 5 mm above the centre line of our neck. Without turning the machine on, check the depth by lowering the blade and adjusting until you have the correct height. The saw cut has to be on the body end of that 215 mm line, so put a few pencil marks there to make sure you know which side to cut. Once you line up your blade and you have the depth gauge set, hold on to your work very tightly and run the blade through. You also need to cut the other side of your neck, so flip it over and get prepared. You may want to use a clamp to avoid cutting with your non-preferred hand. Your two cuts should line up perfectly with each other. Now that the second part of your neck construction is complete, you can put all your tools away and get ready for part 3.